On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Got a bunch of new Q posts for you guys today, so hopefully this is going to be exciting. But starting off with post 3989, we've got one here that's one. It's got the pictures here. There's been a lot of information that's pushed out around this. The big thing that's taken away, we got the 3 stars down here. A lot of people are suspecting that they're referring to General Flynn. General Flynn's a 3-star general. So they think that this is tying in with the General Flynn information. Now, that would continue on from where we left off here with Maria Baratomo. That was talking about how they were the information that was going to come out and basically prove Flynn's innocence is going to be coming out. Kind of expecting this week, but who knows what's actually going to happen. But again, another reminder post that follows up and bringing up much of the same thing. So very, very cool how that kind of plays out. Also pointed out, which is very cool, is this little snippet in here that one of the Anons figured out. 3 stars equals Flynn. I think that's probably pretty solid. Done in 30. Now, this is something that's very fun. Done in 30 showed up in a few places. I want to say it was this guy here. Yeah, Done in 30. So let's just do a quick check. So Done in 30, we've got a few different posts. 1281. So we've got this Fox News Politics, House reports backs claims the FBI agents did not think Flynn lied. So why would Flynn plead guilty to something untrue? Define testimony. Define on record. Who knows where the bodies are buried? Flynn is safe. Expand your thinking. Then on 1280, posted just prior to this one, obviously, right? Why would Flynn plead guilty to something untrue? Define testimony. Define on record. Who knows where the bodies are buried? Again, they had to get Flynn pushed off into the woods. There was no way that they could continue with this guy running around willy-nilly. He knew what was going on. He knew that they were being spied on. He knew all this information. So very, very interesting. And then also we had post 970, final stage, right? House cleaning, WH, White House secured, final stage, done in 30. Now, what's really interesting about the Done in 30. First off, this is March 20th, 2018. That's kind of cool in and of itself. But what's very cool about the Done in 30 is the Q-Op started October 28th, 2017. Flynn is exonerated April 28th. They're figuring. Now, well, I guess exonerated yesterday. Right. So that's exactly 30 months. It's very interesting how the future tends to prove the past. That's what they keep talking about, right? So it's very exciting stuff. Another thing that was kind of interesting, the flag of DC has 3 stars, oddly. And I'll be honest, I mean, I figured DC had a flag. Never once in my life do I think I've ever actually looked at it. And when I finally did, I found this to be a very bizarre looking flag for the United States. I don't know why. Just the fact that it's white and red just seems oddly strange to me. Whatever the case is, very interesting. So a lot going on there. We've got going up here. Yep. Next post is post number 3990. So we've got a lot of very interesting information in here. You can see FBI, the chain of command, all these different people. Good old Lisa Page over here, Andrew McCabe. A lot of names that sound awfully familiar and probably will sound even more familiar. But we get down into here. FBI chain of command mid-year investigation. The HRC email? Maybe. FBI chain of command, the FISA, Russia, POTUS, Flynn, Stone, Papadopoulos, Manafort, the CIA bridge, Brennan Intel assets, 17. There's the infamous number 17. Got the FBI chain of command, DNC hacks was in there. If chain of command and DOCI _ A, I think is how they frequently like to say it, but found guilty, indictment chapter, all this. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in here where they're talking about how all these guys got fired. The one that's really strange is that this guy, Randy Coleman's removed. Okay, I was kind of wondering because we get into this post here, and you'll see that there are, in fact, all these people have been fired. Now, one thing that was pointed out, not 100% sure why yet, Mary McCord was in here twice. And there is another individual, this person, I believe, John Campbell. Yeah, John Campbell's in here twice as well. And here's Randy Coleman with the re/D. Someone had maybe suspected that might be red, R-E-D, as in the color red, which I don't know. It kind of makes me think communist. I don't know why. That was always the thing with Russia, right? Red back in the day. But whatever the case is, got 21 people here, right? 2, 7. A couple of them are listed a couple times. So I'm not 100% sure what all's coming out of that. But again, I think just trying to illustrate and really hit home the point of this extremely long post. A lot of great stuff is going on, and this guy here was removed, which is interesting. He's the only one that wasn't fired. That should spark some questions. Not bad. I'm not saying there's a problem with it, but I am saying there's something kind of interesting around that problem. Another awesome thing that came out with 3992 that's pretty cool. Mueller, he was designed to take in evidence needed to expose the deep state. So he was there to block a lot of that movement. Mueller was also designed to limit the POTUS's ability to maneuver. He was designed to stall for a time until the midterm elections to terminate all House and Senate ongoing investigations. Mueller was also designated to safeguard the D Party's base, false narratives regarding the infamous collusion. The POTUS cheated, evil, sky is falling, red or orange man bad, all that great stuff. The efforts to divide and mobilize for future protests, riots, and etc. All this stuff has been happening, right? This whole process. There's been military intelligence on both sides of this. Mueller was also designed to provide fake news, right? He did that very well. He was designed to demonstrate foreign players. He was designed to mobilize the D Party for midterm. He was designed to push the D Party's backers to donate. He was designed for the public outcry. Again, all of this was meant to put all of this information in the constant limelight, to constantly have it in front of the public, to try really hard to constantly play down the president. And so news is fake, obviously. The propaganda machine that we call the news media is very fake. And in fact, many of us aren't even allowed to say a lot of things on this channel because of what's allowed and not allowed. Again, it's kind of interesting how these rules are played. And of course, this war is real. It's the information war. It's a silent war. There's a lot of different aspects to it. But there is a lot of information that's coming out. There's a lot of us that are trying really hard to disseminate this information to the best of our abilities and share it with as many people as possible. Post 3993, remember this important fact. Adam Schiff is part of the Gang of Eight. He was part of the intel group of the House. It will become critical once the Gang of Eight material is declassified. Hint, hint, we've been talking declasses for a long time. So logical cue. If Adam Schiff knew everything he is investigating and stating publicly to be knowingly false, that's called disinformation, right? Why then would he take the course of actions or the ongoing actions? Did Adam Schiff purposely deceive the American public, thinking the Gang of Eight material and other classified documentation would never reach the public domain? Quite a gamble on their part, but they really, really did believe they had all of this cinched. AS memo was false. If AS was privy to the Gang of Eight classified material, would he know the same facts, truths as Nunes, maybe? Think Nunes memo versus Schiff. Again, a lot of things were known. A lot of people knew what was going on, trying desperately to get this information out. But there was a major block on the House. They wouldn't even let certain people testify. They wouldn't even let the certain side in on the testimony or this infamous the recording, the transcription of this missing meeting that we're trying to get out of here. So what if all of this was coordinated? Again, Shifty Schiff really does seem to be playing for the deep state without any question. Everything he does seems to be very heavily motivated in the sense of disinformation, certainly not trying to help the people with truth and with more information. So in post 3994, how does Soros secure, in brackets in bold, with the DNC leaders? How would someone that's supposedly manifesting gobs of money and funding a lot of these bad actors that are out there, how would you work on trying to communicate? And there's been some great work done by the Anons, and there's been a lot of discussion around the whole concept of Star Wars, but the same concept's going to come up. And again, how does China secure the DNC leaders? The same thing. We've got Soros. We've got the DNC leaders through China. Very interesting that there's this strange group of friends that are trying very hard to communicate with the DNC, communicate with these FBI Comey and all these guys, right? A lot of little dark comms were going on. How do you do something like that? Information warfare. It's what it is, right? Talking about infiltration instead of invasion. This is going to come back up as well, post 3997. Also, the silent war continues. It continues. There's something quite beautiful about this. The fact that the one side, of course, the dark or whatever, I think, the non-patriots are without a doubt pushing and pushing and pushing. And the sheeple, the unawakened masses, are certainly feeding into this. They're telling, I've got friends that are constantly feeding these same lines to me about how everything's okay, or everything's falling apart, really. And, all these sicknesses and all this virus and all this horrible stuff's going on in the world. But there seems to be more to it. And I think a lot of us are really kind of catching on to how this game is played. A lot of us are starting to understand that what's put into the media is meant to misdirect. And that's really the key. Misdirection is what they are masterful at. And they do a very good job at it. It should never be underestimated, the dark and evil that we're dealing with on this planet. On post 3999, got the same evidence to free Flynn currently is being used to indict others by the grand jury. Same evidence to freeing Flynn's currently being used, right? So a lot of good stuff. 302s. Those are those important FBI reports that people have signed their name to. Those are going to get people in trouble. Who listened in to 2 counts of FISA? There's people are going to be busted on that. I think these numbers come into the number of arrests. I think one was going to be civilian, a couple, whatever, and 6 people were going to be, I think, in the FBI. Or so again, these numbers, I believe, are referencing back to that text or that post a while back. FBI agent 1. Flynn's interview, right? That's going to come into play. The FISA warrants were illegal. It's going to prove all of this, all the Declass, all this information that's coming out is going to show that these things were illegal, that the FISA warrants that they put out, that the information that they swore is true, that the information they left out that would have actually have let everybody know that Flynn was not guilty. All of these things are going to come into play. They're going to be declassed. A lot of this, they never thought they would turn around and declass half this information. They never thought they would lose. Now, that's part of what can happen when you're a little overconfident. That's why I want a lot of us to keep in mind that don't be overconfident. Don't just think these guys are a bunch of idiots. I've heard a lot of Q people say that. I don't believe that's true at all. Granted, they put it right out in front of us, and they're kind of walking. They're in a corner right now, and there's not a lot they can do, and it's pretty easy to tell where they're going to go. But never underestimate desperate animals, desperate people do crazy stuff. So just kind of be on the lookout. And like they said here, watch what happens next. Stuff is coming out. This is going to be powerful time for us. So anyway, the big question about how do we communicate? How do we communicate with China if we're a deep state actor? How do we communicate with the other democratic people, the other deep state actors? Well, interestingly enough, there's this game called Star Wars Commander, or SWC as it's going to be referred to. How to select bad actors attempt comms without SIGINT collection, without signal intelligence collection. Rebellion or Empire? What side do you think they would be on? I'm going to go Rebellion, right? It seems very much, Empire, I'm sorry. I'm going to go Empire. Seems like they'd be on the dark side of things, wouldn't they? Private. So these chat rooms are private. These clans, if you will, or Empire, or however they do the I've played Worlds of Warcraft. I've never played the Star Wars game, but same thing, right? You got clans, you got teams, you got groups, you got whatever the heck, hordes. You've got these groups. You can only get invited to them. And there are certain factions. There's good factions and bad factions. They're probably played that way as well. And again, the whole light to dark, that's been a big comment that's frequently come with these Q posts. So again, it seems like they've known about a lot of this information for a long time. Like and some of this stuff seems to go back quite a ways. So Star Wars Commander, here's the game. And what's interesting about this is just recently they announced that this game is closing. Somehow, this game is being closed. I think probably because they realized how badly it was being abused. There's probably some truth to that. But there's some suspicion that maybe they might have found another place to go, and we're going to get into that here in a second. So the walls are falling down is one of the things we're starting to notice in this last post here. We're having some trouble delivering DMs right now. You may be getting DM notifications, but not seeing the messages that were sent. As soon as this is fixed, we will let you know. Again, Twitter seems to be having some issues trying to do some of these direct messages. There is a concerted effort to shut down some motion of these people's ability to communicate back and forth. In fact, what this implies to me is they're already watching the back end. They already know who these deep actors are. They've already been able to go back and see these comms, regardless of deleting them. All these things still exist. And these people thought they were being sneaky. They thought they were getting away with it. And the problem is, for them, is they weren't. And I think this has been watched for a while. And that's why so many people, they hate how long this is taking for things to happen. Where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? The arrests are coming, but you've got to do things in the proper order. You've got to line up all your ducks, or this is not going to work. And they're going to get away scot-free like so many others have in our past. I mean, there's too many to mention. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now. So again, a lot of things are happening right now that are worth keeping in mind. Post 4002, dates are important. The Star Wars Commander game drops on December 16th that it's going to close. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. Interestingly, George Soros, on February 14th this year, George Soros invested a bunch of money into Blizzard. I actually know a bunch of people that work for Blizzard. It's just right down the street from where I live. It's at least the Irvine branch or location, campus. I've known people that have worked there. I've worked in IT for a long time. These are people that I'm friends with. It's my little group of people, if you will. So desperate times call for desperate measures. I'll tell you this. Why do you expose what you know publicly? That's the big question. When do you expose what you know? That's one thing that a lot of people don't keep in mind. They don't understand why we're not arresting people sooner. We're not doing things sooner. When you give someone enough rope, as they say, as the metaphor goes, you give someone enough rope to hang themselves. When you give them enough rope, you don't let them know you're doing it. You don't let them know you're watching. You don't let them know you're paying attention. And when they mess up 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times, you don't let them know. You let them keep going. You let them think they're getting away with it. That's how you give someone enough rope to let them hang. You let them mess up enough times to where it's cinched. I've got plenty of information. I'm taking this person down. They do it with crime all the time. You want to make sure you catch them with the big crime and not with the little thing. Don't get them with the petty crimes. Who cares about that? Get them with the big stuff. And that's how you're going to make the difference in the world. One cool thing here. So billionaire George Soros invested $45 million into the Activision Blizzard. Blizzard's who's made the World's of Warcraft. I'm not sure if that's the game they're going to be taking advantage of, or if there's a new Star Wars game that Blizzard's doing. I'm not really up on all the stuff that Blizzard's up to. Don't really care. There's way too much going on in the world. But I do know that in a lot of these things, you've got private chats, you've got private guilds, you've got all these things that can be used to do these chats. And I'm under the impression that George is obviously investing money, so Blizzard will build a special something for him, like the ability to have private rooms or something. I'm sure there's some sort of decision of what he'd like to see, and I'm sure he's got it under the guise of making the world a better place. But just to show that nicegamer.com is talking about how there's a whole slew of stories here. In fact, these claims have been rejected by mainstream media, claiming that they are right-wing conspiracy theories, which some are kind of based around that. But anyway, there was at least one of the stories I found is how vilification of George Soros moved from the fringes to the mainstream. I mean, this is all New York Times information, and this whole little video talks hugely about all the bad things that Soros was doing and blaming Soros, and they were talking about the migrants, and that's what this particular video anyway was talking about, and they were blaming Soros for all that. So again, Soros is not getting off scot-free ever at all, not even a little bit. Post 4003, we've seen this planned thing a few times. Henry Kissinger talking about how essentially we're going to be praying for UN troops to come in and save us after this horrible pandemic happens, which I think is probably what he was hinting at here. But anywho, why do they want you locked inside? This is one of the key things that so many of us don't understand. Is there a purpose, or is there a larger benefit? I'm trying to say it in any way that's sort of okay. Is there a benefit to the deep state for having all the sickness happening the way it is right now, to having things closed down the way it is? And I think to most people, there's a lot of benefits to it. So why would they want you locked inside? Obviously, you can't talk, you can't share. It's harder to do that. Why do they want you to panic? Right? Because if you're panicked, if you're scared, you're going to do what they tell you. You're going to listen to them. You're going to go, oh, no, everything's so horrible. I've got to do what you say. Why do they want you to live in fear? They want to control you. Why is the media banning anyone who is challenging these different medicines that can help? Why are you instantly banned for talking about these sorts of things? Why is that not okay? Why do they not want you to know about this particular stuff here? This has everything to do with the P underscore election. Who benefits the most? Think about it. Who benefits the most right now when they can't allow us to go out and do our large gatherings, such as the Trump rallies, which were gaining huge support? We're very successful in moving his message and his popularity. And on top of that, was showing on TV to other people that don't believe Orange Man's bad. They were showing all these other people lining up to see someone, people that were waiting outside because they couldn't even fit into the building where he was, where Trump was. There are thousands of people that are showing up to support this guy that everybody hates. Huh? How's that possible? How does everybody hate him, yet for some reason he seems to pack stadium after stadium after stadium? Logical thinking. That's why he keeps saying that. Logical thinking. When they've got you scared, they've got you emotionally thinking. Doesn't work. You emotionally do bad things. When we're emotionally thinking, we don't do smart things. When we logically think, we actually make better decisions. We're able to make a difference. And that is why Q keeps saying logical thinking. Don't buy all this horse pucky that they're sharing with you. It's not true. So all assets are deployed. Everything's out. Everything's ready to go. And they are willing to win by any means necessary, stripping the economy, taking the elections, doing anything they can to get power back. As Trump just said recently, if they had power, if Trump wouldn't have won, we would have already have been done with a war in North Korea that most likely would have somehow gone nuclear, maybe more over there and less over here, but it still would have been catastrophic for the rest of the world. And likely Iran would have been the next place. So a great thing that we've got here from Mayor Bill de Blasio. My message to the Jewish community and all communities is this simple. The time for warnings has passed. I have instructed the New York Police Department to proceed immediately to summons or even arrest those who gather in large groups. This is about stopping this disease and saving lives, period. Now, right up the top, I mean, this is sort of taken out of context, I'm hoping. I'm not going to go and dig into all Mayor de Blasio's posts. But is he doing more? Is he saying other religious groups like Christians too, or maybe people of Muslim faith, or is it just the Jewish? I mean, that seems very strange. Maybe he hates Saturdays, and that's the day. Right? I'm being a little bit facetious, but something weird kind of going on. And again, they're letting people show themselves. They're letting this Mayor Bill de Blasio show himself to the rest of the world. And I'll be honest, like Cuomo, the governor, I'm impressed. I will be honest. I'm truly impressed with the way that he's handling things. Now, again, I'm waiting for everything to change. I'm waiting for him to take his gloves off and start smacking us again with them. But it's very interesting how him and his brother, by the way, I don't know, what's the other Cuomo dude's name on CNN? He's been saying some weird stuff. Some weird information's been coming out around him. So I'm not sure if maybe these guys are some of the people that might come out of the woodwork that might actually start supporting this. Again, off on a tangent, but who knows? Just saying. This one here, oops, it's refreshing. Cool. Where was it? That's something to do with something. I don't have any idea why I pulled this page up, but that's okay. We're not gonna worry about that. So we got our next post here, post 4004. Nuns. Impressive, most impressive. They've dug up some very interesting information here. I got to be kind of careful how I show it, and so I'm going to do my best to do that. And I've got this one kind of prepped up over here. But there's a couple very interesting things I found out about this Star Wars game in the chat. And oddly, the chat went down on days where catastrophic things were happening. Almost like they were communicating about these things the day before, and then all of a sudden, the day of, you can't chat. In-game chat totally broken for the game on the day, coincidentally, of horrible experiences. This one right here, June 28th, 2018. Something kind of bad happened on that day. Over here, July 22nd. Again, these people are, our squad's experiencing chat problems after loading a game. Once loaded, we can't see prior chat. They broke chat. They deleted chat. We can't see prior chat. That's deleted. That's deleted information. Why would you delete chat information? Oddly, the day before significant events. Why would you do that? We've got a couple other examples over here as well talking about it. So how do you communicate when you're doing these deep states? Some people talk about the dark web. There's a story I found that went down a very interesting rabbit hole regarding that. So yeah, there's probably some truth to that, but that's a bigger pain than it's probably worth, and also I think a little harder for the larger group to be a part of. I think you have to have some solid skills to really start playing around on the dark web. So interesting information, or coinky dink, is playing around this little situation here. Now, something else that's quite cool, and I kind of wanted to point out. Now, this is a really long little conversation. I read it. I don't know. Nothing jumped out at me as far as the comment. I mean, it's bad. It speaks poorly about the deep state and how they have kind of jacked up conversations. And this particular one seemed like it's a weird back and forth between two people that don't necessarily agree with each other. But that all being said, what is interesting is this last post, May 17th at 3:15 p.m. Today's time is up. Everyone knows what to do. Tomorrow will be a busy day for all, so we'll let everyone know time when S hears from the grapevine. There happened to be a very, very bad shooting in Texas that following day on the 18th. Oddly, coincidence probably, I don't know, but it's very horrific that here we are in advance saying that better watch out, tomorrow's going to be a busy day for all of us. Also, there was something to do with Rod Rosenstein being accepted or put onto the panel to help with the Trump impeachment information or whatever. So that's also the day that happened. Could be a tie into that, but for me, I think it ties more to the Texas incident. That's pretty darn horrible. Post 4006, be ready, as it's stating. And up here, my campaign for president was conclusively spied on. Conclusively spied on. Nothing like this has ever happened in American politics. A really bad situation. Treason, all caps, means long jail sentences, and this was treason, all caps. Treason is something that does not get dealt with too often, probably more in spy circles and things along those lines, so we probably never hear about it. And I would assume that most people ever guilty of treason end up in places like Guantanamo or, CIA farm or God knows where, some crazy jail in some off weird remote place. Treason is not something that you ever deal with lightly in any sort of institution, military, any of that stuff. Your whole system falls apart when these types of things happen. So again, there was knowingly a coup that happened in this United States that we love so much. And this coup was barely stopped, but was stopped. And there was like 4 or 5 major attempts to really push this coup home. And it didn't happen. So let's keep hoping that this is what we're here to do. That's why so many of us feel like we're trying to spread this information, trying to help get this word out, because we need as many people awake as possible. Post 4007, Q leaving us another little fun message. This was that May 18, 2017, Deputy U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein appointed former FBI Director Mueller as special counsel overseeing the investigation. Oh, that was when he put Mueller into it. And so, again, interesting. That's when Mueller was put in charge. So another big thing that happened that following day, also interesting, I think, considering 2 very significant deep state type events occurred on the same day. A little sketchy, a little scary. And by no means am I downplaying what horrible things have happened. I hope that's understood. Post 4008. This is a really long post, and I'm not going to read all of it. But what it is, and he says it in here for us, read slowly and carefully. Knowledge is power. Now, first off, this PDF is actually really cool. It talks about irregular warfare and insurgencies and all this kind of stuff. The part I really want to focus on is this part down here. Insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. As such, it is primarily a political struggle in which both sides used armed force to create space for their political, economic, and influence activities to be effective. Insurgency is not always conducted by a single group with a centralized military-style command structure, but may involve a complex matrix of different actors with various aims, loosely connected in dynamic and non-hierarchical networks. To be successful, insurgencies require charismatic leadership, supporters, recruits, supplies, safe havens, and funding, often from illicit activities. They only need the active support of a few enabling individuals, but the passive acquiescence of large proportion of the contested population will give a higher probability of success. This is best achieved when the political cause of the insurgency has strong appeal, manipulating religious, tribal, or local identity to exploit common societal grievances or needs. Insurgents seek to gain control of population through a combination of persuasion, subversion, and coercion, while using guerrilla tactics to offset the strength of government security forces. Their intent is usually to protect the struggle, exhaust the government, and win sufficient popular support to force capitulation or political accommodation. Consequently, insurgencies evolve through a series of stages. Through the progression and outcome will be different in almost every case. Insurgencies are an ebbing and flowing, a constant moving, a constant evolution. Ebbing and flowing, maybe not the best because that kind of implies sort of more title, but it's got that constant evolution. It's constantly changing. And what you do is you take over groups, you take over masses that have easy ideological processes or problems to manipulate. So the poor is a great one. Put the poor against the rich. We've got all these gender dysfunction, not gender dysfunctions, gender differences, different kinds of gender names. There's all these different pronouns. So we can fight amongst those 30 different pronouns. We can have 30 different fights. There's political, there's male and female, there's mother and father, there's parents and non-parents, there's the man and not the man. There is all sorts of grievances, and they're taken advantage of. And they're very easily taken advantage of on the news with the propaganda machine. All they've got to do is just state something is incorrect. Politico just stated a story about how Trump owed China whole gobs of money. And then secretly at like midnight, like 12:37 in the morning or some crazy thing, they post a retraction and say, "Oh, sorry, we got it wrong. Oops, forgive us." 12:30 at night, no one sees it. So everyone's like walking around going, "Trump owns billions of dollars to China." No, he doesn't. And it came out and it said, "No, we were wrong. Sorry, forgive us. Whoops, sorry." And that's part of the problem. Is no one sees the retractions. People believe what they want to believe. I'm guilty as charged, of course, too. But people believe what they want to believe. We believe, and then based off that, we go and look for research to prove our belief. And so we find it. And there's all sorts of research that suggests one side's correct, and there's all sorts of research that suggests the other side's correct. What's funny is one side's a little bit rooted in made up stuff, stories, and innuendo, and the other side actually has facts, actually has stories to back it up, actually has statistics, actually has declassed information and soon to be declassed information that is going to make this irregular warfare challenging for them to continue. It is being squashed. The Star Wars games being removed. Again, you have to shut all this stuff down before the arrests can ever happen. I saw so many posts on the Q boards. Will you let me know when the arrests happen, and then I'll start watching. I get it. I get where you're at with it. I get your frustration, but that is not going to get anyone anywhere. Like, we've got to pay attention to what's going on. We've got to notice the little things. We've got to be vigilant and keep our guard up and understand that we are not out of the woods yet. We're definitely getting close. There is, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, but we've still got to get to the end of the tunnel and make darn sure it's not a freaking train coming at us. That being said, and post 4009. Knowledge is power. I'm not going to get too heavily into this Google Doc he links here. It's actually a very interesting document that gets into all sorts of information around this particular pharmaceutical product that is floating around out there. There's a bunch of studies that have been done by a number of different countries. I'm not even going to scroll down because, again, I'm not trying to get in trouble with the police, just trying to make sure that the information is out there, that people understand that they can find this as well. And for those of you that don't realize, we're going to do another quick refresh up here. QAlerts.app is a great place if you want to see these things yourself and follow this information yourself. This is a great little app here. This like I said, QAlerts.app, and then I think it's QPub or whatever the other one is. So I'll pull it up over here real quick and we can see it. It's the other one. It's the actual board. I think QAnon.pub. So for any of you that want to try to follow this information on your own, highly recommended. Major posts coming. A lot of stuff is happening right now. Declass is coming. Drip. We're going to keep dripping it out. It has to drip out. It can't just flood out because Americans and probably the rest of the world have about a 4-second attention span. If I don't drip it and keep it in the news and keep it on the front burner, you and I will forget about it. We will totally forget about it, and we'll believe whatever crazy thing comes up tomorrow, whatever riot happens, whatever happens. So they drip, 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 drip. And it's just driving the enemy insane because they know some of what they've got. They just don't know when it's coming. A lot of great information is going to be coming out. Stay strong, stay vigilant, keep your eyes open, love one another more than anything, and be kind. If you guys like what I'm doing, please subscribe. Please share. The algorithm doesn't like us talking about this stuff. Please let others know in any way that you can. And of course, if you could, the subscription with the bell icon, all that good stuff. Appreciate each and every one of you. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.